And away we go. This episode is only going to be me, so no Eric and no Risk. Guaranteed. Because this is, as of this recording, I'm recording this at a time that's not usually the time I usually record episodes for the two podcasts that I'm running. I was out for the evening doing something for a project, which is part of my plan to be part of the global stage. So yeah, that's going to take a bit of time, but good things comes to those who wait. So I will take it. Anyway, on with the news. Gen Z is drinking less alcohol than any other adult generation. This is a Twitter X post with the caption, "You." Now, on one hand, it is a win because, well, there's going to be people that will argue that although it is part of social etiquette to drink alcohol at a party, which is understandable. On the other hand, same people would say that drinking too much alcohol is very bad for your body. Like when you're gonna throw up afterwards. It's not pleasant. I've been there for sure. But of course, there was something else. Oh yes, Eric would say that if drinking too much alcohol just to get drunk is considered a sin. You know what? I can't argue with that. Whilst it's a good reason to not drink alcohol, like there are health concerns drinking too much of it. Of course, it's also a reflection of Gen Z not interacting with people all that often. And I stumbled across an advert. This is an app called Storyboard or Storyboards. I'm not sure it's singular or plural. But there is an app where you take a quiz and based on the answers you give and where you're from, of course, so it's only applied in the UK, it will match you up with groups of individuals close to your age range where you can meet up somewhere in whatever city you're close to and just hang out. And from what people have said using the app, they've started their own group chats on social media and they say they'll meet up again at some point. I'm not referring to any groups in particular, but majority of the feedback that use the app to find new people to meet up, it has very good feedback. And who can argue with that? So I want to give it a go, but of course, I want to see where my journey into the global stage will go. I want to wait a couple of weeks or maybe a few months in regards to my journey towards the global stage. I want to see how that will go to see it will give me the financial prosperity that I would need to cover it. Because if it was free, I would do it, but I think you have to get a subscription to do that. But anyway, this is not. I'm not sponsored by them. It's just me just talking about my experience with it and my curiosity regarding it, and me just saying, yeah, I think it's a app that's worth using if you're wanting to find new people to hang out with within your local area. Oh, this is a story that I just found on Puberty Instagram account. The headline reads, Denmark to allow citizens to copyright their face against AI. That is a massive win. Good on you, Denmark. This is exactly what I want to see. And the rise of artificial intelligence. Look, I'm not against using artificial intelligence to enhance productivity and improve the quality of what we provide to society, but we cannot rely on it too much to the point it actually replaces us. And of course, I know there will be people that say, oh, humans aren't going to replace AI. Well, at least for now. AI is not that advanced yet. And even in the next few decades, it does become so advanced to the point it could be possible. That is only likely to be the case if there are people out there that have the tendency to abuse AI's ability to even go that far, and especially use AI for their own personal gain. Because there are people out there that just can't be asked to do the job themselves. So Denmark is doing something right. Not that they're doing anything wrong, but it's great to see that doing something right regarding artificial intelligence. So I'll give them that. I I hope Denmark continues on this path along with other countries around the world. I'd love to see something like this implemented everywhere. And of course, and even at the highest convenience as well, like convenience and accessible for people to copyright themselves so they don't get implemented. At least data regarding their identity aren't being used to train AI models without their permission. TikTok plans to launch a new version of its app for United States users on September 5th as part of a pending sale of its US operations. This plan complies with a congressional requirement that ByteDance sells TikTok's American operations by September 17th, or the app will face a ban due to national security issues. TikTok made arrangements to keep US user data on servers operated by Oracle as a security measure, though users might experience some technical issues during this migration process. On Friday, President Trump indicated that an agreement is nearly in place regarding the TikTok sale, though it still requires approval from China to be finalized. Approximately 170 million TikTok users in the United States will need to install a newly launched app to maintain access to the platform, as the existing version will remain functional only until March 2026. Saying that, and I also question this too. Will will M2, the US counterpart to TikTok, will it still be connected to the main TikTok app even after March of 2026? Or will M2 for United States users operate the same way as Douyin in China, like its own separate app, its own separate algorithm, and has separate data that is separate to the main international TikTok app? It is likely, from what the report says, M2, the US counterpart to TikTok, will have its own separate algorithm and have data from the United States be separate from the global TikTok app. And Shadowminer has discussed this matter as well, and I'm not going to disagree with what he says about M2. However, looking at what Trump wants to do with M2 and what his concerns is with China, I feel it is likely M2 will go down the path of being its own separate app, going down the same path as Douyin in China for Chinese users, although it may not be as advanced, because what I've heard about Douyin for like the Chinese counterpart of TikTok, it looks pretty advanced. Now, I'm not saying I would give my data to China, but I would love to use the Douyin app because the features and functions of it is just it's way ahead of its time. But of course, they won't do anything or implement anything unless it's to someone's benefit, and that benefit isn't to the majority of people. However, at least now, there is no excuse for Trump to extend the TikTok deadline again. It's going to be set in stone. However, another concern in my opinion, if it's going to be a separate algorithm and data is going to be separate, US data is separated from the TikTok app post March 2026, I really can't argue about surveillance, 1984. It's not that deep, at least for now. But of course, even if there are people who have those concerns, they're just going to go fly back to Red Note. Just like what happened the first time people heard about the TikTok ban actually going ahead. And although there have been dips in the Red Note app, I think Red Note still has some US presence on there, so even if the M2 app does go ahead and there is a majority of US TikTok users that do not want to go to M2, they will gladly go back to Red Note and pick up from there, which is certainly going to be the case. And yeah, also, I'm not going to say too much about the project that me, Eric, and Shadowmine are working on because we really wanted to go ahead and we want to launch it as soon as we can. But of course, there are delays and there's many setbacks, mostly personal, and especially out of our control. So I'll just leave it at that and leave it to the viewers. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. There's more that's yet to be covered, and my cheek is really hurting for some reason. Italy probes UK online bank Revolut for misleading clients. I didn't know Revolut was based in the UK. I thought it was Finland. Anyway, let's just see what it says. Italy's competition watchdog has opened an investigation into UK online bank Revolut for misleading messages to customers about its investment services. The Competition and Market Authority alleged that Revolut used aggressive ways to handle its banking services, impacting client experience. Revolut stated it would cooperate with the investigation and is committed to high standards of compliance and customer protection. Revolut failed to clarify that clients could not modify their stop loss and take profit settings for managing risk, according to Italy's watchdog. Now, not that it would be anyone's concern or business. However, from my experience, I do use Revolut. Now, before that, I had Lloyds Bank, but the reason me and my family started using Revolut is when me and my family were visiting a friend of my mum's in Germany, close to Hamburg, and recommended by my mum's friend from Germany that Revolut would be very convenient at the time when we were visiting them, because currency exchange is pretty good and the fees regarding that are very low, if any. Well, most likely not, but if there is any, it is very low. Now, my experience with Revolut, pretty good, not bad. Very good savings account too, in my opinion. Again, not sponsored, it's just my opinion. However, now the crypto side, they didn't mention it, but this is where things get a little tricky and complicated. Now, I'll be honest, I have some experience with crypto, and I will continue with the crypto path. And whatever government regulation is put in place, nothing's going to stop it. And I can't argue with whatever regulations are going to be put in place. However, I will argue, but regarding said regulations, will it limit the spending power of the people? If that is the case, I'm not afraid to make a fuss about it. Because no matter how much you limit people's spending, there is nothing going to stop people from living their lives and contributing to society. Anyway, the point I was making with my experiences on Revolut, with whatever crypto-related stuff I was been handling, I've used Revolut's in-app crypto services, and it's gone pretty well. But then all of a sudden, I got a message from Revolut regarding some kind of transaction, and they said that I don't think we can trust you with that. I'm not. Now, if this was all bad on my side, I wouldn't be discussing it, but I'm telling you right now, when I was using the crypto side of Revolut, it was alright. I had no problems. And I was aware that if I made any mistakes, I will learn the hard way. I'll accept that. But thankfully, I know better to know what addresses that I was sending my crypto to, and it's the right crypto address and not the wrong one, because if it's wrong, that's it. It's gone. There's no way of getting it back. And that is a risk that people unfortunately make. Now, I wouldn't advise people to go down this path unless A, they're willing to lose whatever money, they're likely to lose if they were even investing into it, and B, they know what they would, unless they know exactly what these people are doing when handling crypto. If the answer to those two is, I don't know much, and I have no idea what I'm doing, then please don't do it. I advise you not to do it if you do not know what you're doing. But if you do know what you're doing, and you are curious to find out, then fair enough. Anyway, to conclude my experiences with the crypto side of Revolut, not once, but twice, there was complications with verifying the address I was sending to, which is legitimate in my opinion. And Revolut said, due to these reasons, we'll have to take away your access to the crypto services. Now, a point I made out to them is, so if you're taking my access to crypto via Revolut, how come am I still able to use crypto on other platforms? Now that is a bada boom, bada bing moment in my opinion. They say that whilst you can still use crypto, our standards with crypto trading, we take that quite seriously. And anyway, when I say that, this is all linking up to Italy probes UK online bank Revolut for misleading clients. Now, I'm not going against Revolut, nor I'm defending them. The point I'm making is, from my experience of previous crypto trading on the Revolut platform, their reason for taking that access away from me is down to the fact that they have high standards of security and making sure that their customers and users have the financial stability. They didn't believe I had the financial stability. However, again, I certainly know better. If I would lose it, I'd lose it. But during my time with crypto, I had not lost anything. And as of now, I do not plan on buying any more of crypto in the future. Not because I don't have the money, it's just, I'm just hodling. Holding and saving for later. Waiting for the price to rise and for me. And when the price is high enough, I will just sell it. And of course, I'm waiting to see, again, how my career into the global stage will go once I get there, and will I be able to sustain myself financially? Anyone that will ever come at me for anything finance related, I'll be prepared. It'd be uncomfortable, but there will come a time I will be challenged. I'll be ready for it. When the time is right, I'll be ready for it. That I'll be sure of. Bangladesh tribunal indicts ousted Prime Minister Hasina over deaths of protesters. Bangladesh's former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has been indicted by a tribunal for her alleged role in the deaths of protesters during mass unrest in 2024. Audio recordings analysed by the BBC suggest Hasina ordered security forces to use lethal weapons against protesters, a claim her party denies. Hasina faces 5 charges, including being the mastermind of atrocities that led to mass killings and injuries to civilians during the protests. Alright, this is the first I'm hearing about this. And all I'm getting is, that is bad. Very bad. Whether or not she fesses up to it, she admits or denies whatever's been claimed, you do not shoot at protesters. You don't have to agree with what they say or what they're protesting, but you do not shoot them. Under any circumstance, you do not shoot them. That's only going to prove their point and only validates their cause in the first place. Not that I'm going against protesters, but if such people in power have such a problem with what people are protesting, what does that say about the current government? That is something to consider. So, whatever happens next, hopefully there is a solution that comes about, and hopefully that will be the last of such incidents and scenarios in that country. I hope that's the case. Hudbay provides an update on Snow Lake operations due to wildfire evacuation order. Hudbay Minerals Inc., a copper-focused mining company with a market capitalization of $4.25 billion and strong financial health according to Investing Pro, announced Thursday it has implemented a temporary suspension of operations at its Snow Lake site in northern Manitoba in response to mandatory wildfire evacuation orders. The mining company, which maintains a healthy concurrence ratio of 2.32, indicating strong liquidity to managing such disruptions, has secured its assets and maintained a limited workforce at the site to conduct monitoring and assist with emergency activities. According to the company, its infrastructure and facilities in Snow Lake face low risk of damage from the wildfires. Operations in Flin Flon remain unaffected as the current wildfires are not located near that city, though some exploration activities near Snow Lake have been paused. That is very unfortunate. It's very sad that wildfires are still a thing. But hopefully, those people who are hiking near that area, hopefully they're still safe, and they are safe, and operations continue as always. Appeals court throws out right-wing influences conviction for 2016 election interference. A federal appeal court overturned Douglas McKee's 2023 conviction for conspiracy against rights related to distributing false memes aimed at reducing support for Democratic voters in the 2016 election. In March 2023, Mackey was found guilty in Brooklyn of conspiring with additional individuals during the fall of 2016 to distribute misleading memes that falsely directed Democrats to cast votes for Hillary Clinton via text messaging or social media platforms. The Second Circuit panel found that prosecution's evidence, including private Twitter messages, failed to prove that Mackey knowingly conspired with others that anyone was tricked into not voting properly. The three-judge panel stated, posting memes, even assuming intent to injure voters, is not enough alone to provide a conspiracy violation, emphasizing the government did not meet its burden to show an agreement. The ruling orders a judgment of acquittal, suggesting limitations on prosecuting social media misinformation as conspiracy, while Mackey thanked supporters and threatened legal action against the Justice Department. I do not have strong opinions about the situation, but when it comes to election interference, now, even if it's in favor of a party whose opinions I would likely agree with, I would still say any form of interference for that's in favor of any party or candidate, that's a no-go. Even if it is for a party or individual that is committed to fulfilling the promises that they say they'll do, as well as parties or individuals that a majority of people would likely agree with. It is important that elections are as fair as possible. I cannot stress enough how important election interference is and the urgency that people must take, knowing that anything is possible. So, when you go out and vote, always use pen, no pencil, because, officials can just rub that out and just replace it with another vote for another candidate instead. So, yeah, it's important that people know that. Just heads up for anyone watching or listening. French Parliament passes controversial Diplôme law amid environmental backlash. Parliament has approved the reintroduction of the controversial pesticide acetamiprid, despite strong environmental opposition. Appeals are expected Despite fierce opposition and tension in the National Assembly, Parliament definitively adopted the agricultural law on Tuesday, sponsored by Senators Laurent Deplomb and Frank Menonville. This text, intended as a response to the agricultural crisis of winter 2024, notably authorized the reintroduction, by the way of derogation of antihistamiprid nicotinoid family banned in France. Adopted by 316 votes to 223, the law has divided even the presidential majority. Supported by the FNSCA and the Young Farmers, it is presented as a first step to relaunch our agricultural production system. Julien Dive insisted on the safeguards surrounding the measure and estimated the land potentially affected by 500,000 hectares or 1.7% of agricultural land. LFI, the PS and EELV have announced appeals to the Constitutional Council. Well. Wait, what do I mean, well? Of course it was going to happen. There's so much farmland in France, so of course it's going to be a hot topic regarding what the agriculture sector is going to be, how it's going to operate, and what they plan on regulating. It is important that the agriculture is in tip-top condition and the standards are high. And what I mean by high standards, I am not talking about high regulation. Those are two different things. Even people argue that they are the same. There are many cases that regulation and the standards could differ. However, I will say, I hope there is positive outcomes coming from this, and if not, well, ow. My cheeks hurt really badly. Well, back to the drawing boards, I guess. Musk releases latest Grok version after anti-Semitism controversy. On July 10th, 2025, Elon Musk announced on Twitter X that Grok, xAI's latest largest language model, will soon be integrated into Tesla vehicles. This announcement followed Grok's 4's recent launch amid controversy over anti-Semitic content posted by the AI chatbot on Musk's social platform X. Musk live-streamed Grok's 4's release, touting its improved voice capabilities and benchmark sources, outperforming competitors like ChatGPT and Gemini. Musk stated Grok's rollouts to Tesla vehicles would occur next week at the latest, aiming to enhance in-car user interaction and deepen Tesla's relationship with xAI. The integration signals growing cooperation between Musk-led companies, while Tesla also faces shareholder pressure about Musk's focus across ventures. Good old Musk is back in the news, as always. At the end of the day, has he got what he wants? Yes. Financially, socially, and publicly as well. He's got it all. But no matter what, it's never enough for him. He's going to continue making the headlines, and he's going to continue making innovations in SpaceX, Twitter X, and of course Tesla as well. And there's the Boring Company, but not many people are talking about that, at least for now. So, despite the mess that Musk has got himself into, getting into politics, or at least mostly when he was at the White House, despite whatever controversy that surrounds him, hopefully he hasn't lost his edge in technological advancements and innovation. I hope he still's got it, despite many strong opposition from people on the left, and the fact people are just sick and tired of hearing his name regarding anything. I hope he still continues innovating with his companies, and even after what we know about him and other people in power, well, just give people hope. Just sick and tired. Former Love Island USA contestant Sierra Ortega apologizes for using racial slur following Ortega's exit on Sunday due to resurfaced racist posts. Escobar had been removed earlier in episode 2 after N-word videos resurfaced, leading to abrupt departures. Social media comments flooded with demands over 17,000 signatures on a petition. Ortega's followers dropped to 683,000, reflecting widespread backlash. Following the exits, Nick Van Steenberg followed single mid-episode, prompting calls for better background checks. Host Ariana Madix urged viewers to stop doxing. Beyond the controversy, Sierra Ortega's family expressed hope she will return with honesty and growth, highlighting ongoing concern over contestant well-being in the franchise. Now, I have a question. Was background checks even in place to begin with? If not, good grief. Do better. I don't even watch Love Island. Even I'm curious to find out what goes on. And I really don't want to. Because I already know what Love Island is all about. It's a way to get people hooked up on true love and that you can find anyone so long as you have good looks and you have the support base. But honestly, it's just an illusion. And I think people who even had been on Love Island, even they're coming out saying, it's not what you think it is. It's not about finding true love. It's just a way to stir up drama and get attention, create stories, and even, of course, individual brands that will last decades, if not centuries. Now, would I even be on Love Island? No. And would I accept the offer if they asked me? That's a good question. Likely no, but I would be curious to see how that will go. And I don't mind stirring a fuss just for an entertainment, because I'm like that. But I just wouldn't bother altogether. A century after a man was convicted of teaching evolution, the debate on religion in schools rages. In July 1925, John Scopes, a Tennessee high school teacher, was tried in Dayton for teaching human evolution in violation of the Butler Act. The Butler Act, introduced in March 1925, banned teaching any theory denying the biblical creation of man amid rising anti-evolution sentiments led by Christian fundamentalists. The trial became a national spectacle featuring Clarence Darrow defending Scopes and William Jennings Bryan prosecuting, spotlighting the debate over science and religion in schools. John Scopes was convicted and received a $100 penalty, an amount that was subsequently reversed due to a legal technicality, while the trial heightened ongoing debate over the place of religion in public education. 100 years later, new laws requiring Ten Commandments displays in schools face legal challenges, reflecting continued tensions over church-state separation in the United States. Now, it's important that we get the education that we need. And I know not many people will agree with this. However, I think education should be given to the states. Let the states give each of the 50 US states the power and the choice to decide how education should be done in their respective state. And if people living in said state don't like what the education is provided in the state, they can move to another state with a different structure or system of education that they see best for their children and for themselves as well. Because by having the states decide what education should be for children, it gives people in the United States options about how do they want their children to learn. I think that would be a great decision. And regarding the children, that's a grey area for me. On one hand, there should be some form of teachings in religion to give an insight of what laws should be passed in said countries, but on the other hand, does the religious teachings truly reflect a majority of the population in said country? Because I know that people follow different religions. We can't force people to a particular religion that we see fit. We should allow people to decide what they want to do with their lives and what religion they want to follow, even if there are people that may not agree with it. I will say, whilst we should consider different middle grounds on what should be passed and what we should teach children, at the same time, allow people to have the choice to put themselves and the children under whatever education system they believe is beneficial to them and their families. If one doesn't work out for them, go to another US state whose education system would best suit them. Having that kind of option, it just makes sense, and it gives freedom of choice for those kind of people. Those European allies step up plans for future Ukraine stabilization force, with US attending meeting. European leaders and the United States held a meeting during the 4th annual Ukraine Recovery Conference in Rome to advance plans for a peacekeeping force. The meeting followed planning that began in March after a Lancaster House summit and included the US delegation for the first time to support Ukraine post-ceasefire. The coalition agreed to establish a Paris headquarters for the multinational force Ukraine to enable rapid deployment after hostilities end, with plans to rotate headquarters to London after 12 months. Ukrainian President Zelensky emphasized Ukraine's strong need for US sanctions and military support, while Senator Graham and Blumenthal proposed a 500% tariff on Russian oil importing countries. The effort aims to deter Russian aggression long-term, provide logistical and training support to Ukrainian forces, and reflect broad Western unity despite no specific troop commitments announced. And here we go again with the tariffs. Is that all they got? Are they just going to put tariffs on everything, thinking countries will just give in? No, the tariffs are too high. We'll have to do what they'll say. Come on, it's getting old. And even if it works, you can't rely on tariffs forever, because at some point, they might actually come a point that a country, the US can put a sanction on any country, on all of its goods between to and from said country, yet the country in question would be like, no, I don't give a damn. I'm financially stable anyway. I can cover your tariffs. What if there's a country like that that would be in such a position? That's something to point out. Even if tariffs are effective, it's not enough. And especially if there are countries that just don't give a damn about how high tariffs can be, that will strain them economically. The tariff talk is getting old, just like I'm sick and tired hearing about Donald Trump and whoever else is in charge of the Western world. Honestly, they need a new plan. What's Plan B, lads? Come on, what's Plan B? Tariffs is not enough, nor will it be as effective as you want it to be. There has to be something else. And also, the Ukraine and Russia conflict, or war. Again, sick and tired of hearing about it. It has to stop. Shouldn't have happened to begin with. And as much as Russia will argue that the reason for sending the military into Ukraine is because they don't want Ukraine joining NATO, because it breaks the treaty about the Western nations expanding their alliances into Eastern Europe, violence is not the answer. Nor should it ever be the answer. There are better ways of dealing with this. But yeah, they're going to do it anyway. Not just because it's profitable in the short term, which is very unfortunate and sadly true. They just want to show that they're strong and mighty. Yeah, but it comes, at the cost of people's lives. People don't want to go out to fight. They just want to live lives and pursue their dream jobs. It'd be very sad if this keeps going for a couple more decades. And eventually, when it's all over, everyone's in tears that finally it's over. No more decades of pain and suffering. Why do you think after World War II, Switzerland one day said, let's make a competition for songs as a way to unify all of Europe and even the world to provide something that doesn't involve war, and as well as the creation of United Nations. Although if Rusk was on here, he would not have he will have something to say about United Nations. He will not like what they're doing right now. However, there are reasons for organizations to be established and have some kind of discussion and prevent problems from arising again. And even though they will rise again anyway, conversations will be brought up. US has reclosed its southern border after a flesh-eating parasite is seen further north in Mexico. In mid-2025, restrictions were reinstated on importing live cattle, horses, and bison through the southern US border in response to the New World screwworm fly spreading further north in Mexico. This development came after the parasite outbreak was identified significantly further north than earlier incidents, approximately 185 miles to the northeast of Mexico and nearly 160 miles beyond the previously recorded locations. Mexican authorities reported 392 infected animals as of late June, marking a nearly 90% decrease since June 24th, while President Claudia Sheinbaum criticized the United States' decision as exaggerated but confirmed protocols were followed. U.S. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins revealed a plan to invest close to $30 million in establishing new facilities for breeding and releasing sterile male flies, including a fly production center scheduled to open in southern Mexico by July 2026. The closure and continued surveillance stem from fears that the fly's larvae, if they arrive in Texas, could inflict serious economic harm, leading officials to call for the approval of anti-parasite treatments that are currently restricted due to labeling regulations. Dang. No laughing matter here. It's outrageous. So unfortunate. No one should go through that. But yeah, here we are. They're still going to happen, and someone has to do something about that. All I can say is, hopefully, whatever they're doing to combat this, plans are completed earlier than they are planned or expected to be finished, as well as the next step forward to combat future related problems that will arise in the future. And that's all we have for this episode.